Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I would like to welcome you back to the 12th day of the Whole Bible Plan, the Daily Bible Commentary. I'll probably run out of fingers pretty soon here once we get into the dozens and hundreds. Um, but nevertheless, today is, of course, day 12, and it's going to be a much more casual day. Forgive me for my current mode of undress. I'm going through kind of a hard chronic fatigue day. Sometimes I'll have good days and sometimes I'll have bad days, and that's why they call it chronic. It comes in waves. It's not always there, but it comes back. And so that's one of those days. I hope you'll forgive me. But I figured not anyone would really care that much. So let's get right into it. Day 12 begins with Genesis 27, goes through 28, and then skips to Job 20. So, here we go. Something that I actually forgot to mention in the last video in Genesis 26 is how it ends pointing out that Esau took count 'em, two Hittite wives. And they brought grief. Grief, that word also means like not only grief, but disappointment, annoyance, frustration, and like despair to Isaac and Rebekah. This probably means that they were not just Hittites, which is outside of God's plan and outside of, Abraham's plan to have his sons marry into the family and not from any of the Canaanites, but it also means probably that the Hittite wives were disrespectful and or mocking to Isaac and Rebekah themselves, which is awful. And so, already we saw Esau showing impatience and impetuousness and stupidity, selling his own birthright for just a bowl of stew. But he shows the same lack of care and concern for God's covenant and his parents in marrying Hittites, but two Hittite wives. And it's actually kind of a recurring theme that all of these patriarchs would take two wives, Isaac, included. So, it is therefore confounding to me, dumbfounding even, that later on Isaac would even consider choosing Esau for the blessing. Because it's in this chapter that he chooses to bless Esau, to have him bring him some stews that he may bless him. After all, Esau has done, Isaac chooses to bless him. And, we have to ask why. Why would he do this? Especially seeing that God gave Rebekah the prophecy that the older would serve the younger. So why would Isaac pick Esau? Well, most likely just because he liked Esau better. He liked Esau's hunter mentality and brawn, preferring his evident strength to Jacob's smarts. Already said that Jacob was also a mama's boy. Rebekah preferred Jacob. Isaac preferred Esau, and so there's not only this conflict between Esau's wives and Isaac and Rebekah, but between Isaac and Rebekah themselves. And later on, Esau and Jacob also come into conflict. So this choosing of Esau by Isaac shows a lack in character, a character flaw. In verse 4, in fact, it is shown that Isaac, in a similar way, typologically, symbolically, is willing to give his blessing away to Esau for nothing more than a bowl of Esau's stew. I think that's a very interesting comparison, even though it's not really the same. Obviously Esau didn't have to give his blessing away for stew. His inheritance for stew, and neither did Isaac have to give his blessing for stew, but he chooses to do it anyway. But he chooses to give his blessing simply based on his preference, his personal preferences for the type of person that Esau was, rather than Jacob, whom, was called the supplanter. And so, obviously, there was a choice that Isaac clearly made over God's choice. Like father, like son, apparently. Rebekah overhears this, Isaac telling Esau to go get him stew and to, kill some probably, deer, venison, and cook stew for him, and then he'll bless him. So Rebecca overhears it, and knowing the prophecy and preferring her own son, she hatches the plot to fool Isaac into blessing Jacob. Isaac lies to his father 3 times. The goat hair Jacob put on feels like Esau's skin to Isaac. That man was a were-goat, I tell you. And he blesses Jacob instead. Esau then comes in for the blessing, but apparently, and I don't know why, I've never understood this, why couldn't Jacob give more than one blessing? But he couldn't. Like, there's no magical, like, mana bar that is completely depleted when, you bless someone, but apparently there was some kind of traditional understanding of a blessing given from a father. He can only do it once, and if anyone asks him again, then the blessing just won't be was not understood to be effective, which is very interesting to me. It's very like magical in the way, like fantasy in a way, but I don't know if that actually makes any sense. Obviously, God chose to bless Jacob, and it says that he blesses Jacob later. So Isaac blessing Jacob is also kind of like the introduction into God's blessing. Also, you want your father's blessing because that shows that he is okay with you and wants you to lead. So, all that aside, um, Esau is, of course, maddened by this and decides to kill Jacob, but waits till after the period of mourning for Isaac. Isaac dies, and so Esau chooses to wait until after that, and then he'll kill Jacob. During which Jacob is sent to take a wife from among Laban's daughters. Um, before Isaac died, he said, "Go take a wife from Laban's daughters and from my family." And so he does that in the mourning period. So he gets away from Esau's wrath, at least in the immediate time. So, for some crazy reason, Esau sees this and decides to marry one of Ishmael's daughters. Yeah, as if you haven't done enough already to anger your parents. Of course, Isaac is dead by this point, so he doesn't have to anger his father, but definitely his mother. He goes and marries one of Ishmael's daughters, as if that would not estrange him further. Jacob departs, lays his head on the stone, and this is the iconic moment. I think this shows that he doesn't have any, pillow. He doesn't have a blanket. There's nothing to make him more comfortable than a stone, which means he has literally nothing. He went out with absolutely nothing, even though Isaac and Rebekah were completely rich. This means that Isaac was still not keen on the blessing that he gave to him, and did not bless him physically with physical possessions to help him out on his journeys. He's just basically alone, which is crazy. I mean, it almost borders on evidence of dislike, which may have definitely been the truth. I don't know. I have a lot to say about these today. Maybe it's because I'm laying down. I don't have to. Anyway, for some. Jacob departs. Oh, yes. The iconic dream of angels ascending and descending to and from heaven, with the Lord standing atop it, reconfirming the covenant with Jacob. There's more that can be said about this. Pastors, leaders have talked about this many, many times. This dream to Jacob seems to imply that this is spiritually and physically the house of God, just invisible to him, for some reason. Obviously, if you see God standing atop a ladder, then you'll think, wow, this is where God lives, atop the ladder. So he blesses the area and moves on. Job 20. That's it for Genesis for today. Just look up some other commentaries and sermons on this passage, Genesis 28, and you'll find some really interesting insight on both the spiritual realm and application for today. But I'm not going to get into that. So, Job 20. Zophar speaks again for the second time and says that he feels insulted. he feels insulted by Job's words. Last time Job was complaining about feeling insulted, now it's Zophar's turn. Uh, just hurling insults at each other. It's kind of funny if it weren't so dire for Job. So, Zophar argues for the transitory nature of the wicked in death, of all men, but specifically of the wicked. And, quote, he swallows riches but will vomit them up. God expels them from his belly. Now, this is true generally. Like in death, as you have heard, you can't take it with you, as meaning your physical riches. Storing up treasures on earth means nothing. So, store up your treasures in heaven, obviously, is the New Testament message, but they didn't have that message these days. So, what it meant to Zophar is that, the dead don't carry them on, but the living do. And so the living live longer, the good live longer than the wicked. And so that would be, true if not for him believing that only wicked die early and only wicked people receive, struggles and strife and get their wealth taken away from them. Whereas Job is standing here, supposedly a righteous man, but he's going through the same struggles as a wicked person. And Zophar says, the wealth of the wicked is stored up basically for the righteous. Not those exact words, but elsewhere in Scripture, that is the basic understanding. Unfortunately, Zophar makes the same mistake in saying that the wicked also always experience torment and the fruit of their labors in this life, which is definitely not true. Always, of course. The wicked's portion from God is definitely these negative things, but mostly these happen to the wicked in judgment on them, either at the day of the Lord, at the beginning of the millennial kingdom, or at the judgment seat in the afterlife. So, there you go. Making the same mistakes as all of the other counselors. And even Job makes some of those same mistakes. So yeah, that's the end of Job 20, and that's all I have to say on the subject. So thanks for bearing with me in my illness. Pray for me if you will, I will get better. So thanks for watching, God bless.